It's a new day, yes it is, thank you. And you've joined us here in the morning time. We're a little bit earlier today, but we're going to have the next part of our story. It's another madhouse in here today. There's Sheila the cheetah. You can hear all that rattling and stuff. That's because Lila has brought over a tea set. Okay, so we're going to be having some tea later on. But so glad you could join us for the next part. Thank you. To the next part of our story. You know, if a kid hands you a mug, you have to drink from it, even if it's a pretend mug. Yeah, you can show. Go ahead. Willow, of course, wants to show some more toys again today. So do excuse the racket here this morning because one at a time. Right, okay. So these are LOL dolls, and there's one. I'm sure this is the reason why everybody tunes in the morning. It's not to hear the stories from the Bible, is it? It's to see your toys, or is it a little bit of both? See the toys? What are we even doing reading the stories in? If nobody wants to hear them, we just want to see your toys. So as well, make sure you have your notifications turned on so that you know whenever we go live, so you can hear our stories or our devotionals, or whenever we go live on Sunday evenings. Do stay tuned. There will be something coming up later on this evening as well, later on maybe this afternoon or this evening. I hope you're not too distracted by these wonderful LOL dolls. There we go. You got a little glimpse. That's just some of the dolls that we have here in this house. We've one more, but we'll show that one later, won't we? It's a mystery one, okay. And so, yes, you've joined us here. There's Willow. And there is little Miss Lila. I know. But we are looking at another part of our story today. Yeah. And we're looking at... Fish. Right. It's time for our story now, okay? So we're going to sit down. This story is called God to the Rescue. This is the story of Moses and the great escape from Egypt and from Exodus. Joseph and his brothers grew old. Oh, Lila, I'm trying to tell the story.
No.
Oh, right, sorry about that. A little bit of a broadcast emergency. Willow, right, we need to tell our story now, okay?
Daddy?
God to the rescue. Yeah?
My feet done it.
Okay, we'll come back again soon, or we'll give it one more go. One more go, right, okay. So this story today is called God to the Rescue. And it's a story of Moses, and we find it in the book in the Bible called Exodus. Joseph and his brothers grew old and died, but their children stayed on in Egypt, where they became a very, very large family. Later on, a new king began to rule, but this Pharaoh didn't remember Joseph, and he didn't like God's people. He made them into his slaves, and he beat them, and he made them work harder and harder and harder. And God's people cried out to God to rescue them. And God heard them. He remembered his promise that he had made all the way back to Abraham, that he would look after his people. Thanks, honey. And he would find a way to set them free. One day, Moses was looking after his sheep when something caught his eye. Something was a little bit strange. It was a bush, but it was behaving quite oddly. It was flickering with flames, but its leaves weren't burning up. He took a closer look, and then there was a booming voice, "Moses!" And Moses leapt back. Bless you. Moses leapt back. It was the bush. The bush was talking to him. "I have heard my people's cries," he said. It was the voice of God. "I have seen their tears, and so I have come to rescue them. Go to Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go free." Moses was afraid, but God said, "I will be with you." So Moses went to Pharaoh. "Pharaoh," Moses began, "God says." "God?" said Pharaoh. "Never heard of him." Moses kept going. "God says, let his people go free." "Why should I?" said Pharaoh. "I don't want to. I won't." And he didn't. So God gave Pharaoh 10 warnings called plagues. First, God turned the river Nile into blood. No one could drink the water. Ugh. But still, Pharaoh would not let his people go. So God made, would you hear this? God made frogs come hopping and leaping and jumping. In your bed, frogs. In your hair, frogs. What, honey?
The fish will die.
That's right. All the fish died, so they didn't have anything to eat either. They couldn't eat the fish. That was plague number 1. The second one was frogs. And the frogs were everywhere. They were in your hair. They were in your bed. They were in your soup. They were in your food. They were all over everywhere, climbing up and down and jumping. "Make them go away," Pharaoh screamed. "Tell your people they can go." So God took the frogs away. But Pharaoh changed his mind. "You can't go," he said. So God sent another plague, another warning. God sent zillions and zillions and millions and billions of gnats, little flies. But Pharaoh said no. So then God sent swarms of flies, like buzzing in your eyes, buzzing all over your hair. And there was more plagues. There was sickness. There was horrible boils. There was hailstones. There was a storm of locusts and darkness when it should have been day, until it seemed like the whole world, creation and everything, was coming undone, falling back into darkness. How do you think he felt about that, Willow? He felt like it was going back to being emptiness and nothingness.
Daddy,
Yeah?
I'm thirsty.
Right, okay, you go get a wee drink. But each time Pharaoh said, "Make it stop, and then I'll let them go." And each time God did make it stop. But Pharaoh changed his mind and said, "Actually, no, you can't go." I know. How do you think that made him feel, Lila? I know. Finally, Moses warned Pharaoh. He said, "Obey God, or he will have to send the worst thing of all." And Pharaoh just laughed. So God said, "The oldest boy in each family of Egypt must die, but my people will be safe." God told his people to take their best lamb, to kill it, and to put some blood on their front doors and on their posts. "And when God passes over your house," Moses explained, "God will see the blood, and he will pass over your house and know that God he will see the blood, and he will pass over, and he will know that the lamb died instead of you." And that night, just as God had said, suddenly, piercing through the darkness, echoing down the corridors of the palace, came a blood-curdling scream. "Oh!" Pharaoh's oldest son had died. And at last, Pharaoh did just what God said. "Get out," he said. "Get out. Just go." And so that very night, Moses and God's people, they fled out of Egypt. That night, Moses and God's people, they went out of slavery. They were free, free at last. And God's people would always remember this great event, this great rescue, and they would call it Passover. But you know, there was an even greater rescue coming. And many years later, God was going to do it again. He was going to come down once more to rescue his people. But this time, God was going to set them free forever and ever. They still had one more obstacle to go, Willow, and we're going to see that tomorrow. Hopefully things go a little bit less chaotic. We're on day, I don't even know what day it is for lockdown here, but we're going to have some apple juice. Willow's going to do some schoolwork. Lila's going to just be Lila. I've been Jordan. This has been Willow. Tomorrow, hopefully, it's going to be a little bit more orderly, and you'll be able to hear and you'll be able to understand. Hopefully, you did. But tomorrow, we're going to see Moses and the Red Sea. Okay, we'll see you again, and we'll see you next time. What do they do? Yeah, something like that. Anyway, see you again soon.